If you reject the conventional and embrace what's offbeat, guess what? It's time for Pillow Pete. 3 cheers! It's time for Pillow Pete. Fuck me! It's time for Pillow Pete.
Welcome to the first episode of Prattling with Pillow Pete, a Pillow Pete podcast. I'm calling it that just because I love alliteration, and even though it's kind of a long title, that's why I'm doing it. But today we have a very special guest. His name is Teddy Gray. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Teddy?
Hello to Pillow Pete listeners. There was a word for listeners that began with P, so I could continue the alliteration. Phono listeners, I don't know. I'm Teddy Gray. I wrote and directed and starred in a Garfield parody musical called Garfield the Musical, a Garfield parody, which is on YouTube. And then I make original music too on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere else under Teddy Gray. And I got my first mixtape coming out on August 7th called Rock and Roll McDonald. Written a few songs for Pillow Pete's YouTube channel as well. So that's my story. Anyway.
Alright, so that's Teddy Gray, everyone. That's his little introduction there. So before we dive into the questions, just how are you doing today, man?
Doing alright. I got my teeth cleaned to keep up having the teeth in the game at Anthony Santana. But which, is never fun. No one likes going to the dentist, but, necessary evil. So other than that, I'm doing all right.
That's good. All right, I guess we can go ahead and just dive on in. So, how long have you been a musician?
I don't know. I barely even consider myself a musician. I think of myself as like a singer, a songwriter, or whatnot, but I don't know. I'm a musician purely out of necessity, just as like a tool to write the songs on. But I played piano when I was very young, which I don't know if that's the right instrument or what if it was for me to learn first, because it's one of the harder ones to learn, and I just didn't have the attention span or the dedication to learn. So I quit by around 3rd grade, and then didn't do another instrument until around 6th grade when I started playing bass guitar, and then from there kind of transitioned into guitar just because I wanted to play Nirvana songs and Green Day songs around. So yeah, I guess since middle school I've been playing instruments pretty regularly, and been writing songs for about the same amount of time, I guess.
Oh, that's cool. So you say like you've been doing it for a while. Like, was it relatively easy for you to get into, or did it take you a while to like kind of get the hang of just playing music in general?
I didn't have any, I loved music, but I didn't have any plans to like, I'm going to be a songwriter, or I'm going to be this amazing musician. So it just kind of came naturally. Like, I think I wanted to be in a band, but I wasn't putting any pressure on myself to be, Johnny Marr or Jimi Hendrix or whatever. So just the fact that I was able to bang out a couple chords and figure out what those were, that was really all that I needed. I feel like it's still all I want. Like when people talk about playing sick guitar solos, like that's great and good for them, but my thing is writing a song, so I'd rather get someone else to, play the solo for me. So my limited musicianship, it did come easy, but mostly just because I've never challenged myself to become a virtuoso.
Yeah, I get that. So, do you happen to, like, recall, like, probably the first original song you ever created? And if so, like, do you think it'll ever see the light of day on the internet now?
You mean like one that was recorded?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, oh, God. I was in a band from 7th, 8th grade, maybe like my freshman year of high school. And, the first band that anyone is in is going to be shit, particularly when they're doing it at such a young age. And I got cornered by this kid's mom after church at the time, just said that her son was in a band and he needed a bass player and heard that I played bass, so I was in that band, and they were essentially like an AC/DC fucking cover band, and I'm not a big AC/DC guy beyond playing Thunderstruck as a drinking game. That for me is their only usage. And they didn't have a singer either, so once they found out I could sing, I just kind of became the singer as well as the bassist, because I'm a far better singer than I am bassist. But so learning to sing those, AC/DC songs, like, I'm TNT, was kind of like how I learned to expand my career. So then when we started branching out into original music, they had a song that was already kind of written, but it didn't have like a vocal melody and it didn't have the words. It was kind of like the instrumental for it. And it was just an AC/DC ripoff. AC/DC, if someone like lopped their cock off, it was just very much like, and it's not like you can write vulnerable lyrics or like temporary tattoos or whatever over that. So I was just trying to write lyrics based on that instrumental, and I was like, all right, well, what's something vaguely like strong or masculine or that kind of rock sounding? So the song was called Unstoppable, and it was fucking trash. It was horrible. It was like, we're unstoppable, unstoppable, and it was awful. And at the time, we got it on like Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that shit. And that was before people were aware that anyone can put shit up on Spotify and iTunes and whatnot. So people thought that was the coolest thing in the world, the fact that we had our song on iTunes. Just the fact that the song sucked didn't really matter. People just thought that the fact that we were on iTunes meant that we had made it. But yeah, that band fizzled out about a year later, thank God, and the kid who started it is in like the Marines now. So I don't think any of them have continued their career.
Oh my god, I'm not gonna lie, that's honestly not what I was expecting you to say at all. Like, I genuinely never even like imagined you ever doing like AC/DC cover songs or like trying to replicate that. So
it's fucking trash. Like, as like a piece of pastiche, like, as a 13-year-old trying to write an AC/DC song, it was probably a pretty good attempt. But compare it to the greater world of music, and it's trash. I still get shit for it to this day. I hope it never sees the light. I think it's gone. I don't think it's able to be found anywhere. But yeah, it's as someone who's put out a lot of stuff over the years that I don't necessarily hold in the highest of opinions, or stuff that I kind of regret, Unstoppable might stand tall as the thing I wish I could write out of my history.
Oh man. Well, yeah, you're probably right, because like before doing this interview, I was like just looking into like your music and just trying to figure out stuff so I could ask some decent questions, and I definitely didn't find Unstoppable while looking around, so I mean I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Alright, well, so there is one song I know that you're not really fond of, and that's Wheaties. And what about that song? Like, why do you decide to keep that up, but like some of your earlier work, like I know you had an EP called The Price of Youth that like I couldn't really find anything about aside from like a short video I think you had promoting it. So why do you keep Wheaties up but not that other stuff?
Where'd you find that, just out of curiosity, the Price of Youth?
I found it, like, I was on Facebook, and like it was just like a page, it just said Teddy Gray, and like I just...
Oh yeah, I used to run. I haven't updated it in like 5 years. Yeah, The Price of Youth, the reason that got deleted was for two reasons. One, my voice sounds very bad on it. That was still kind of when I was younger and hadn't quite found my voice, and I was trying to emulate more of like the pop punk kind of singers that I was a fan of at the time, and particularly Liam Gallagher of Oasis. And so I was kind of trying to put on this more nasal, like hard-edged affectation in my voice that just ended up sounding shitty. And honestly, it sounded more like SpongeBob than Tom DeLonge. So I was embarrassed by that. It's not that it's terrible, but it's just I don't like the idea of someone stumbling onto that and thinking that that's representative of how I sing currently, because I hadn't really yet found my voice or my style. Once I started singing like myself, everything seemed to click after that. But at the time, I was still kind of going through that phase. And secondly, because I think the 3 songs on that, which were called "Sorry I'm Here," "Not Your Friend," and "Broadcast Youth," which at least one of which I played on a live stream at one point, I think are really good songs. But I didn't really get great recordings of them, and the lyrics, I hadn't really found my voice as a lyricist yet. So I've always kind of thought of them as unfinished. And on my next album, I'd like to bring at least 2 of them back, maybe all 3, and just as improved songs with, now my better voice and better lyric writing skills. So, but in the case of Wheaties, I decided to keep that up because that song is done. And I don't like it because it just reminds me of an amateur time in my life where I really didn't know what I was doing. Not that I really do now, but like I was 15 and it was kind of learning to write songs, and I just hear that song and I hear a kid who's just kind of discovered the formula for that kind of poppy rock songwriting where it's, verse, chorus, soft bridge, soft part, then final chorus. And I'm kind of embarrassed by it, but I don't think I'd change anything about it other than the fact that I wish my voice sounded better on it. Like, I never plan on reviving or improving Wheaties, and people, for whatever reason, really like that song, so I kept it up because people, still ask me to do it. And, it's just kind of become a running joke, like, the fact that I won't play Wheaties or whatever. But, I don't know, I think it's got a charm to it, the fact that it does sound like a 15-year-old kid writing his first song, and the chorus harmony is nice. It's just kind of got that, like, very basic, charmingly amateur, emotionally honest simplicity to it. So I don't know. I'm not. I wasn't uncomfortable with leaving that song up because it's a nice little nugget for people to find. And I don't want to ask who you see me as because in my head it's so much better. That's a pretty fire line, so I can give it to 15-year-old me. So that's why it's still up there. But that doesn't mean that I'll be playing it live in a script. It doesn't mean that I think it's representative of me currently as an artist. But yeah, that's the story.
Yeah, that's understandable. I get like what you're saying too. People like it because I swear I've introduced your music to a lot of like my friends and some of my family, and I don't know what it is. They always tell me they're like, "Oh, my favorite song is Wheaties," and then I tell them I'm like, "I don't think he really likes that one that much," and then they're just like, "Oh, I don't know why. That's like the best one."
That's the thing, and like obviously with all due respect to the people who like it in your family, like most people are kind of like dully, right? So like they like the most basic, and Wheaties is the most basic, like easy to like song. Like it's just very much like, oh, this is the first song a kid wrote. It's just very like rudimentary, but people like that. People like pop, and they like the fact that it serves no purpose other than to be a catchy little tune. It's something a little more complex, like the 27 Club or whatever. I wouldn't expect that to have the appeal of Wheaties. That's kind of by design. So it is annoying because I feel like I've written so many songs that are much better than Wheaties, but I do get why it has the appeal, I guess.
Yeah. And that's also like, not to say like I do like the song, but like I get what you're saying there, especially like it is easy to just kind of listen to and be like, oh yeah, that's good, especially compared to other stuff. Like I guess I couldn't imagine somebody listening to like Pictures of Your Feet like, and then just be like, oh, like they probably find that just weird. And like, I mean, it is, but like, I mean, it's just kind of a fun song. I love that one, honestly, too. I love all of your music, but I guess I do see like the appeal of Wheaties in that regard. I guess I do see like that regard.
Well, Wheaties was also recorded in a legitimate professional recording studio, which is why it sounds good and probably sounds better than a lot of my music. Because all my stuff now is just I do on a laptop and with one microphone out is just the fact that I've learned to use them pretty well, so it's not like holding anything back too much. And also just to save money because recording studios are expensive and I don't have any money. But at the time, I would just spend my birthday money and record a song.
Yeah. Before we move on, like, why did you decide to call the song Wheaties?
This is a Wheaties interview. I called it Wheaties because whenever I'm done with a song, I always want to give it a title that I think is memorable, and I just didn't think that there was a line in the song or a line in the chorus that I thought was memorable enough to make it the title. So I was eating Wheaties at the time, or like I opened my pantry and saw we had Wheaties, and I said, boom, Wheaties, and just never thought about it again. But I was very insistent, because when I recorded it, the engineer, this guy, Matt Sunday over at New England Productions, I don't know if he's still there, but I'll give him a plug anyway. He was very kind of like pop-minded, and the formula, it was just like, you can't call it Wheaties, like, how about I Don't Want to Ask? And he's like giving me all these titles, and I was very insistent, like, no, it's Wheaties. And I think in the long run, I turned out to be right, because I think the fact that it's just inexplicably called Wheaties just kind of gives it an additional kind of like, oh, this is fun, this is cute feel.
Ah, yeah. It is a memorable title. I'll never forget about a song named Wheaties, so...
Well, I mean, I still try to do that now. Like, there's the reason that Billy and Lil Nas is called Billy and Lil Nas and not The Kids Are Running Circles Around Me, because, I was trying to make people go, oh, this is about Billie Eilish and Lil Nas. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of an opportunistic songwriter.
Oh, that's fair. Now I'm gonna go ahead and, like, skip over some of your work just because I want to come back later and talk about your upcoming mixtape. So I guess we're just gonna go ahead and skip all of that and just jump to Garfield.
Yeah, man.
So, like, how did you decide on making Garfield? Like, did you just wake up one day and you were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a Garfield parody musical? I mean, obviously I know it's not that simple, but...
I wanted to write a musical, and more specifically wanted to have a big project, like something that I could attach myself to, and when I'm trying to justify myself as a songwriter or as a writer and this and that, I thought I want something big that I don't want to just be like every other prick that's just like, oh, I'm inspiring, like, whatever. It was just like, I'd like to be able to point to something concrete, like, this is something big that I finished, it's good. But with that said, I knew that writing like an original musical would be a much harder sell than if I based it off of a pre-existing property. And obviously Garfield memes were huge, and I had a huge knowledge of Garfield and comic strips in general. So it just seemed like a good backdrop for something that could maybe catch on YouTube. And I was always pitching like ridiculous musical ideas to Michael at school, and Garfield was one of the first ones that he responded to, so it just went from there.
Yeah, that makes sense too, especially, like, yeah, attaching Garfield's name to anything. It's like, even if people somehow hated it, it's like, I mean, you would still get traction, but, I mean, I've pretty much only seen positive responses to it, so, like, that is good, because, I mean, you've obviously put a lot of time and effort into that thing. Like, I really don't know how you pulled it off, but it's amazing.
I don't know either. Every time I rewatch it or I see clips from it, I'm always amazed simultaneously at how good it is and how shitty it is at the same time. But I'm happy with both. Hold on one second. Just give me a second. Hello, I'm back.
Ah, nice to have you back. I guess we'll use that as like a little intermission. So,
Very nice.
all right. So I guess back to Garfield. How long did the project take as a whole to make?
From conception to completion, I think was about a year and a half, because I started writing the songs in December of 2018. We recorded them all throughout the next year, and then filmed early 2019, edited, and it was out on, I think, May 4th? Something like that, or April 29th, I think, but I always think of May 4th as the release date, because that's when we had the big screening. Yeah, I guess about a year and a half, which was torture on that, because I'm one of those people, like, I can't sit on things when I start something, like, I just want to get it done so badly, but we were also busy with school and being in shows and this and that, so it just took that long, which makes sense, it's a 90-minute musical, and we had many a setback along the way, people that were supposed to film it and help us quitting or going AWOL, or issues with the equipment, issues with people's schedules, this and that. So, yeah, a year and a half in total, I believe.
That's honestly not even that bad. Like, I mean, like, I'm
It's
not,
not.
like, a musician or anything, so, like, I could never do that, but, I mean, only taking, like, a year and a half for a project like that, like, that's impressive.
If I had my way and like my life's purpose had been to make that thing, and like I had been given funding and a cast or whatever and a crew. I mean, we had a cast obviously, but you know what I mean. Like if we had been commissioned by someone to do this and I had no classes to take or chose to be in other responsibilities, it would have been done in probably 3 to 4 months because the songs were all written over the course of a month. The script was written in about the course of a month too, and then the shooting in total, the days we did, was probably about a month, just spread over a long time, and same with the editing. So it would have been done pretty fast. It was just like a lot of stop and start. Like it took forever to coincide schedules with Michael and stuff about getting the music done, getting just spaces booked and everything. But still, yeah, it got done, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. So if they're, like, obviously, like, it's already a great musical, but if you could have gone, like, back and changed something about the musical, like, would there be anything, or do you think you would just kind of keep it as is?
Yeah, the view count, I think I'd change, I'd add a 0, so it goes from 30K to 300K. That'd be nice if I could make that change. I don't know, the musical itself, I mean, if I could change anything, I guess I'd wish that we had a bigger budget. Not like I want us to have a big budget Hollywood, millions of dollars, because I think that cheap, low budgetness has a lot of charm, and that's part of its appeal. But, you know, I wish I could have bumped us up from $300 to $800.
So the whole budget was only $300?
I don't know, because everything was bought with, like, the purpose of it. And honestly, it was probably closer to, like, 500, 600, but, like, the microphone was bought with the sole purpose of recording his songs, and same with buying the materials for the costumes and the props. And we didn't pay Michael and Sam because, you know, they're my friends, so they have to do it. But the one who plays Liz, Carly, we paid her not a lot, but a little bit, because we didn't really know her at the time, and I felt like it was the least we could do, considering we were making her continue to come to our house and get, like, tied up in the basement and sing songs about lasagna. So it was in total, yeah, probably a couple $100, but you know, it was just like, it was all edited on iMovie, which is absolutely insane because it's the worst editing software in the world. You know, and maybe that'd be the thing that I would change, is that, like, I just knew how to use iMovie, and I didn't really want to learn how to use another system because I'm lazy. And if I wish I had edited it on whatever, a more advanced thing, so some of the limitations we wouldn't have had to work around. But, you know, a certain kind of creativity comes from having to work within limitations.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, you know, that was really nice of you to pay at least one of your cast members. Good on you, man.
Well, we paid, I'm sorry, the dude who played the puppet in the beginning, you know, the one who sings the warning songs, we paid him just, like very little, but it was... Like, anyone that we really didn't know, we felt the need to kind of pay. But thankfully that was only 2 people, so.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, hey, plus, like, I'm... Obviously, like, they're your friends, but, I mean, they're getting paid an exposure to be attached to Garfield the Musical, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. You know, Sam has gotten recognized a couple times, and so has Michael. I, ironically, never have.
That doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Maybe if I wore the fat suit. And,
yeah, that's why people don't recognize you. You gotta dress up as Garfield all the time.
I must be up.
Alright, so obviously this was a huge project, so do you think if you talked to, like, your past self, do you think he would believe he would grow up to make something like this?
If I had told 10-year-old me that, if I had said to him, when you're 20, you're going to make a feature-length musical about Garfield, he would have said, yeah, that tracks. He would have believed it. That's not to say that I had it planned the entire time, but just by 10, I already knew that I was interested in comics and stuff. In fact, at that time, I was drawing a comic in my local paper. That was my biggest claim to fame for a couple of years, was the fact that I was one of the youngest published cartoonists. I did a comic strip called Morton in my town's local paper for a couple of years. But so I was very interested in comics, and I was doing musicals already at that point, so I knew I loved both of them and making things. So if I had told young me that, he would have absolutely believed it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But then he probably would have had big expectations. He probably would have had expectations that, like, by that point I would have been, like, commissioned to do it, or someone, you know, I'd be doing it on a big stage or something like that. Then when it actually got time to make it, he would have been like, wait a minute, this is it? But sorry, 10-year-old me. We'll check back in when I'm 30.
Well, I mean, that's good that, like, you've just kind of had, like, that mindset for the most part, because, like, I mean, a lot of people, you know, it's like when they're asked stuff like that, they'll be like, oh, a younger version of me, like, would not have ever imagined something like this, but, I mean, hey, that's cool.
Dude, if I had told younger me that I would never be making a movie-length musical or something like that, I think he would have been disappointed. But, you know, if I had told him, like, at age 20, you're going to have lots of money saved up in the bank and a very practical sense of self in your future career, and you won't be inspired, but you will be safe. He would have been so disappointed. So.
So do you think you'll ever do a project of this size again, like, anytime soon?
I hope so, man. I mean, I would like to hope that I get to do projects this size throughout my life, because they're fun to do. It was difficult to start one right after, or even a couple of years later, because they're so taxing. And the fact that we were able to make Garfield on such a small budget is kind of a feat unto itself, even with as shitty and looking as it can be. But because it's, you know, I immerse myself fully in projects when I'm doing them. It's all I think about. So you can imagine it's a little emotionally taxing when for a year and a half you're thinking of nothing but Garfield and how to parody him and whether or not you're ever going to be able to get this stupid musical out on YouTube. And any day that someone says, like, oh, I'm busy and I'm having to coordinate schedules, I'm just, like, pulling my hair out. So since I was the one, obviously not doing everything, but since I was the one spearheading the project and kind of making sure that everything happened, it's very stressful, and that I wish I could do without. I wish that I had enough of a following that I could have people do that. But the next project that I'm working on is going to be one on the scale of Garfield, although it won't be a linear narrative. Should I plug that now, or are you going to ask me more about future projects later?
I'm trying to think. Need to go through. I mean, I guess you could just go ahead and plug it. Like, I mean, even if I talk to you more about, like, future projects, like, I really don't care if you talk about it again.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, it's probably stupid of me to plug it before we talk about the thing that's actually coming out in a few weeks, because it makes it sound as though I've already moved on to the next thing. But I have, because Rock and Roll McDonald's is done, and I love it, and I love those songs. But I'm a very creatively restless person, and I like to just jump to the next thing. But so the next project, which is already more than half written, is called The Great Failed Romances of the 20th Century, and it's going to be a concept album / review of songs and scenes where basically I take all of the big celebrity romances that didn't work over the course of the 20th century and give each of them a song. Some of them are overviews of the relationships, some of them are from the perspective of one character, some just detail a little moment in their history. So, you know, I talk about, like, F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda Fitzgerald, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen, Sonny and Cher, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, just all these couples that people were kind of fascinated with at the time, both because they were so high profile, but also just because in the long run it didn't work out. So it's just kind of not a linear story, but an overarching concept about the nature of celebrity romances and relationships in general, and how fame can make it difficult to work, and why we as a culture are so fascinated with that. And the songs are going to be certainly not entirely serious. There are plenty of funny ones here and there, but I guess a little more serious than the songs I've done in the past. Like, there's not going to be a sticky notes on the album, but the scenes I write, because each song is going to have a corresponding scene between the people that leads into the song, will probably be a little more comedic, just because that's the style of writing that I do. And I don't know yet if we're going to like film those scenes one by one and put them on YouTube, or like if I'll pick the 12 best ones and do a little on-stage thing and film it. But the album will come first, and I've already written something like 16 songs for it. It's going to be a long album. It's going to be like a double big album, because I kind of want this to be the grand statement, the one that makes people go like, all right, this he didn't just fart this out in an afternoon. So.
Oh man, that sounds pretty cool. I'm really excited for that. Do you have like any idea of when that would probably be out?
Well, it'll probably be written by the end of the summer, and I will start demoing with my producer Michael by the end of the summer too. We'll probably get a couple songs done, but just the fact that it's so many songs means like it's going to be like 25 songs. And it took me long enough to do 13. So I would like to think optimistically it'll be out maybe by the beginning of summer next year. I hope so. But we'll put out singles as it goes along. I won't just be silent for a year.
Well, I definitely look forward to that. So that's gonna be a fun thing to listen to next year. So really excited for that. All right. That was interesting. This is definitely going to mess up the flow now. So I guess back to Garfield.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like remember when I said when I am doing a project, I'm fully immersed in it? Yeah. Because of that, it's like all I want to talk about. But no, let's talk about Garfield. Let's talk about Rock and Roll McDonald's, the stuff that's actually already done.
No, yeah, you're fine. Like, I get that too. Like, whenever I'm doing, like, either art or my YouTube videos, I'm the exact same way, and I hate it because I'm just like constantly thinking, I'm like, I want to get this stupid project done, and then if things get in the way, I just get really annoyed, and then often I'll just kind of put them off because I'm just like, well, I haven't worked on it for like a week. I'm just gonna take another break.
It's tough. It's difficult. I'm a very impatient person.
Alright, so for Garfield, that was actually how I was introduced to your music, and it was just because I was on Twitter one day, and Garf Gab, Wyatt Duncan, I believe you did a video.
The great Garf Gab.
Yes,
Wyatt
the
Duncan.
amazing Garf Gab. Like, I saw he made a tweet about it, and whenever I saw it, I'm like, okay, well, he's tweeting about it, so it has to be good, more than likely, so I had to check it out. And at first I just kind of skimmed through, and I think the first song that I landed on was, I think it was Drawn to Scale. I just kind of like skipped through because I'm like, well, I'll see like what this is all about.
The fact that Drawn to Scale didn't turn you off from my music entirely is a feat unto itself. I like Drawn to Scale, and I love the kazoos at the end, but people do not fuck with Drawn to Scale.
I don't know why. That's honestly like one of my favorite songs from the musical.
It's derpy, it's dinky, but that's what's funny about it.
It is. But like whenever I heard that, I was just amazed because I was expecting, like I wasn't expecting shit, but I mean it's a Garfield parody musical, so I wasn't expecting anything that great.
That's the number one thing anyone says when they watch it. They're like, this was surprisingly good, or like, I was really surprised by how good this was. And I'm like, why are you so surprised? But I get it completely. If someone sent me a low-budget 90-minute Garfield parody musical, I'd be like, I'm never fucking watching this shit. So the fact that anyone has it all is kind of remarkable. I remember when I sent that to Garf Gab, because I was the one who DM'd it. And I was like, please let him watch this, please, because he's gonna. I think it's good. I think he's gonna like it, but it's just such a tough sell. And then he responded saying, like, I saw the link and I was like, I'm never going to watch this, but I ended up watching the entire thing. I love this dude. I'll definitely give it a shout out. Great work. And that was my first indication that was like, okay, maybe this will find an audience. So that was nice.
Yeah, like, but no, yeah, like, whenever I heard that, I was just blown away by it. I'm still, like, blown away by the whole musical, because, again, I wasn't expecting anything that great, but it's amazing. But whenever I heard that, I pretty much immediately knew, I'm like, I want to hire this guy to do music for my channel. And obviously you've done 3 songs now, only 2 have been uploaded, but there's a third one, obviously, Earworm. But, I just kind of want to talk about some of the songs, like, you've made for my channel.
Yeah, man.
Alright, so, well, to start off, whenever I contacted you about commissions, like, what were your initial thoughts? Because I believe I sent a link to my YouTube channel with it, because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try to act like I'm some, like, amazing YouTuber or anything. I'm just going to send him this stuff so he knows what he's getting into if he decides to work with me. And I don't even know if, like, you've watched any of my videos, but if you have, like, did that kind of, like, throw you off? Or, like, was it off-putting?
I did what you did. I skimmed through. And if in terms of, like, was I caught off guard or was I shocked by the content? No, not really, because I was like, all right, well, what kind of person would want to hire me after Garfield? Or not what kind of person, but what kind of content would I be writing a song for? And then I saw your stuff, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It'd be one thing if I was, if I was a classical composer, and then I went and saw some of your videos, and then I probably would have been like, why the hell does he want to hire me? But when I saw your stuff, I was like, no, this makes sense. So I wasn't caught off guard based on what your stuff is like and knowing what my stuff is like.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I honestly wasn't expecting that response either, because, I don't know, like, a lot of people just hate my videos, and, like, I get it. A lot of them are stupid and just really low budget. So I was just like, I don't know, I'm always just hesitant to even show people, especially if I'm trying to, like, get them to, like, work with me, because I've contacted other people, and they're just like, yeah, I don't really want to be a part of that, which is totally understandable. But whenever, like, you agree to it, I'm just, like, I was really happy. I'm still blown away. Like, I'm very thankful.
It's getting paid to write songs. What's not to like? It's not like you're like some. It'd be one thing if like a neo-Nazi contacted me and was like, "Hey, can you write a song about white supremacy?" Like, I'd probably turn that one down. But it was your content like is very silly, and it's fun, and it's obviously like just for the fun of it and everything. And so, what's to object to about that? I was more than happy to hop on board.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, so whenever, like, you create songs for other people, do you end up creating, like, just new melodies? Or do you, like, use pre-existing ones, like, you just kind of had, like, in your head, but never got around to using for, like, your own work? Like, how do you go about that?
It depends. In the case of you, the Pro Jared was made up for the song, because I didn't feel like any melodies that I had really fit that subject matter. Also, I'm not like a gamer, nor am I really a YouTuber, so I didn't know who Pro Jared was. I had to be educated by Michael and Sam, who are nerds, so they knew better than I did, and I'll give them co-writing credit. They did help suggest ideas for the lyrics and everything. So that was original melody. The Pillow Pete theme song, that's a song that I had for years. In fact, there's a demo of it. I don't think it's floating around anywhere anymore. I think it's long deleted, but not too long after Wheaties, like probably a year or two after, that was a song called Keep Your Secrets. And I liked the song, and no one else seemed to, I think, because it wasn't well recorded as Wheaties, and it didn't have, I was still going through the weird phase of my voice, and I don't know, I guess it was just a little too, like, poppy for people, so it never really caught on, and I took it down, but I always liked it, so I wanted to use it at something again. So when you contacted me for that, I was like, you know what, this melody does kind of have like a pop punky like rock cheesy theme song feel to it, like What's New Scooby-Doo. So this is a perfect time to use it, and I like that song a lot, so I'm glad that you use it as the theme song. Earworm was also original, because, I don't know, the more ridiculous the assignment is, the more likely that I have to kind of come up with something new for it, because it's, it's not as if I just have little earworm-esque melodies floating around. They're all kind of made to order.
Oh yeah, that makes sense, and I'm really glad like you used that melody for my theme song, because whenever I hired you to do that, and I think by the time you sent it to me, I think it was like towards the end of December of last year, and I was still working at Amazon, and like whenever you sent it to me, it was towards like the end of my shift. Wait, what?
Yeah, that sucks.
No, it does suck. Thank God I work at FedEx now, so woohoo. But like whenever you sent it to me, I was on break and I just listened to it, and it made my entire day.
I'm glad. That makes me happy knowing that during the 30-second breaks that Amazon gives their employees to tea and Gatorade bottles, you heard the 30-second cut of the theme song and it soundtracked your piss. So I'm very glad.
Yeah. No, that was amazing. And for the Pro Jared video, like that whole song, I do love it, but I actually do kind of want to like just apologize for even like making you do it, because like by the time the video was up, there was like more info about the situation where it seemed like, oh, some of these jokes they don't really sit well now. I kind of feel bad about that.
I mean, that's the nature of comedy and the nature of roast comedy. Like, it should have not gonna age well. I'm sure years down the road, people will say that it's disgusting and despicable that I wore a fat suit to play Garfield or whatever, and maybe they'll have a point. And so it's just kind of stuff that you want to be cognizant of and what you want to be aware of, and try not to cross a line, but you can't let it dictate all your projects, because then you'll be too scared to make anything. So as far as the Pro Jared stuff goes, like I don't. It's not. I didn't catch any heat for it, so I was fine, because it was all you.
No, that is good. Like, I tried to make it as clear as possible, because I'm like, look, anyone involved with this, they were just doing what I was saying because I was either paying them, or in like the case of my brother, he was editing and recording. I actually did pay him for that, but most of the time he just does it for free. But like, I really didn't want anyone involved like getting any sort of hate for it, just because I'm like, I'm not trying to take these guys down with me for some stupid video idea that I had, but I am glad like nobody.
Well, that's nice. That's a good way to approach it. I will say, like, that song is funny and I'm happy with it. But if I was, like if I died tomorrow and they released the complete Teddy Gray, like including my demos and commissions for other people's channel, that would be the one that I would try to send messages from the grave and be like, maybe leave this one off. just out of like, I wouldn't want to get canceled as a dead man.
No, that's understandable.
Actually, I don't know if I get canceled. Who knows? We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, look, if that ever happens and I'm still alive, I'll try to tell people, to be like, look, it was my mistake. I paid the guy to do it. He didn't even want to. So speaking of like commissions and stuff, have you done any for like other YouTubers or just anyone else in general? And if so, are you allowed to like talk about them and maybe like give us some links later so like we can hear more Teddy Gray?
People reach out to me a lot, actually. Or not a lot, but once in a while, people will reach out to me saying, will you write a song for my channel or write a song for me or whatever? And then I say, sure, yeah, let me know. And then they never follow up. And it's the same with Garfield. People say all the time, well, back when schools were open, they would say, I want to do this for my school's musical. Or, like, I'm in college and we would love to do this musical. Can you send the script and all that? And I say, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then they never follow up. So, like, you're one of the only ones that has actually followed through with it. So I've done like a little bit like here and there, but nothing that I feel the need to shout out. Or if you're for whatever reason one of my 15 fans and you are a Teddy Gray completist and you want to seek everything out. You will find it on the Bandcamp and your YouTube channel. That's pretty much everything that you need to hear at the moment.
Oh, all right. And like what you just said actually brought up something I think I meant to talk about earlier, but I didn't get around to. Like whenever I first contacted you, I was like mildly afraid because I do know how people online are. It's like they will do that. It's like either they'll contact you like just about a project and never get around to it, or like they try to like scam people, just like get free stuff. And I don't know, like as an artist, I'm always like constantly afraid of like when contacting other people for commissions. Like I try to sound as genuine as possible because I don't want to like give off any vibes of like, oh, I'm just trying to like, get some free work done for my channel and then never contact them again. And like I don't.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I don't do shit without getting paid at least partly up front, so that's never a concern for me. But I mean, I don't know, dude. If I had been like, let's say I had the fan base of Star Kid or whatever, and then you had reached out to me, like, would I have thought, oh, this is professional enough to respond? I don't know. But the fact is, I'm a nobody, so like, who am I? What was I gonna say? I don't know. This doesn't really live up to my standards. Like, no, I just fuck did I care?
Yeah, that's also something like, if you ever hit it big, at least I'll be able to like show people, be like, well, check it out. I was a fan before,
Man, you'll be the hipster. You'll be a. I mean, if I do make it big, which I won't, but if I do, then you can say he wrote 3 songs for me specifically. Not even my girlfriend can claim to have that many for her.
Oh man, good times. All right, so now that like we've gotten all of that out of the way, I guess it's time to finally talk about Rock and Roll McDonald's, your upcoming mixtape. So obviously you've been like releasing these songs for what, about a year now, I believe.
No, I've been about 6. Well, oh, actually, no, you're right, because I forgot. I put out the original demos of Let's Not Have Kids and Flavor of the Day not too long after Garfield, when there was a long silence. Then Phil Major's Ruin Parties, which is not on the album and or on the mixtape, and then we started up again in January. So yeah, I guess in total it's been a little more than a year actually.
Huh. So did you originally like have it in your head that like you were gonna do it like this, like just release some songs here and there and then put them all in like a mixtape, or is that just an idea you kind of came up with because you're like, oh, I have like a whole catalog of songs now, like enough to just like kind of put together like this? Like, how did you decide to like on a mixtape?
Yeah, I'm an album guy. Like, I love making lists of songs in order and what they should be, and thinking of album flow and this and that. But with that said, when I wrote the songs for Rock and Roll McDonald's, it was absolutely not with an album in mind. This was totally, let's put out some songs, let's put out some singles, let's write singles and B-sides and do a slow trickle out of content, because people tend to respond to that more than they do big project. Much easier to get people to listen to a song you put out that's 3 minutes long as opposed to an album that's 40 minutes. So it's the first thing that I've ever done where I was just writing stuff with no specific project in mind, but I ended up being happy with how everything turned out, and kind of wanted to put a bookmark at the end of the Rock McDonald's era, if you will. Like, I kind of think of it as like, all right, well, here's the last year of my life. Garfield was the last year of the 2018 through 2019. Then Rock and Roll McDonald's is the 2019 through 2020. So it wraps it all together in a nice little package. And I don't really think of it as an album specifically because it wasn't written with that in mind. It's a mixtape because it's just a collection of songs. But with that said, the order that I put them in, I think it does flow very well. I think of it as kind of like a resume for cult stardom. Like, here's different examples of stuff that I can do. But, I'm typically like, if I finish something, it means that I believe in it. So it's rare that I do something and then just I'm like, yeah, whatever. I kind of try to write it out in my history, unless of course it's weedy. So the fact that we have these 13 songs that I think are all pretty good, I wanted to put them together, and I wanted to, like I said, put a button on just this phase of my songwriting. And I feel kind of bad in a way, because for the handful of people that have been sticking around for months, I feel bad that, I'm making a big deal of putting this album on, and technically there are no full new songs in it. But at the same time, I've put out a lot of stuff over the past year. It's not as if I'm skimping anyone on content, and the songs are different. They're not what's on the singles. Almost, at least I think 10 of the 13 songs have minor changes. That doesn't mean that it's a different chorus, but like Pictures of Your Feet has a completely different mix. Let's Not Kids and Slavery Today has electric guitars added, and the production is beefed up as opposed to just kind of like the initial demos. Temporary Tattoos, the vocals a little higher. So they all have little tweaks. Their strings now on the 2010s. So I don't. It's more of an album than it would have been if I had just put the songs out as they were.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed, because I've been sticking around for a while, and I've bought all of your music, and then like when you release this, I'm like, whatever, I'll go ahead and pre-order it now, just because I'm like, I do want to hear like what you've changed for some of the songs. So I am excited. Like, I know you put out with the pre-order, I think it was Flavor of the Day. It's like I can hear the differences. So like I'm excited to hear like what you've done for some of the other songs.
Yeah, the three most drastic changes are for Let's Not Have Kids, Flavor of the Day, and Pictures of Your Feet, just because they had stuff added in different mixes. Everything else is like little tweaks, like in Sad Eyebrows, like the synth sound is changed on the chorus, or like there's a lyric change here and there. Like there's a lyric change on Billy and Lil Nas, because at the time when I wrote it, Billie Eilish was 17, but now she's 18, so I changed she's only 17 to and she's only 18. So it just, so then it'll be dated in another fucking year, and I'll have to update it to be, and she's only 19. But,
you're just going to have to keep changing it like every year, put out a new mix of it, and that's the only thing that you're going to have to change.
Billy and Lil Nas 2021 edition.
I can't wait to hear it. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So, like, the name of the title, how did you come up with Rock and Roll McDonald's? Because, like, I know you've kind of, like, branded your music with that, and every once in a while I also hear you say, like, ska wah wah. Like, how did you come up with that?
I went to Hofstra and just graduated from there, and I was the host or the co-host of a weekly cabaret where it was basically an open mic night, but it wasn't just, eight douchebags getting up there with a guitar and singing Hallelujah. It's not to say it wasn't that, because douchebags would get up there with guitars, but it would be just kind of madness. Like, there would be a lot of improv groups and people singing songs and whipping out ukuleles and doing comedy sketches and this and that, and just kind of had like this madcap energy that at some point we started referring to as Rock and Roll McDonald's. I think because we would very often go to McDonald's after they were done. They would start at 11:30 at night on a Wednesday, but they would get done at like around 1:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock, and then we just wouldn't want to go to bed because we'd be all energized. So we went to McDonald's one night, and I don't know who said it first, but we just started singing the Wesley Willis song, Rock and Roll McDonald's, and chanting it and annoying the hell out of Angie, my girlfriend, who was driving the car, just going, Rock and Roll McDonald's. Kept saying it. Somehow it, in that same car edit, we decided the inverse of that. So in other words, if something exudes non-rock and roll McDonald's energy, it would be ska wah wah. And we came up with a couple specifications too, like I can't remember them off the top of my head, but we just decided ska wah wah was the antithesis of rock and roll McDonald's. Although for the record, I like ska music and I have nothing against wah wah either. But just the phrase works. And so they just started using that as a phrase and kind of a gimmick. I don't know. It's just stupid. It's fun to say. And when it came time to name the mixtape something, there wasn't any question of what that was going to be. It had to be Rock and Roll McDonald's. This is the Rock and Roll McDonald's era.
I absolutely love it because whenever I first heard that, I'm just like, it just sounds like it was already a thing. Like, I don't know, like, what it is about, like, both of them, like, Rock and Roll McDonald's and Ska Wawa, like, both just kind of sound like it's just a thing, even though, like, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I love it.
It's just, me on my never-ending quest to where I never get taken seriously. It's just and sometimes I'm like, wait, musician, and then I have to remind myself, like, dude, you're naming songs pictures of your feet and naming your mixtape Rock and Roll McDonald's. Like, what do you think people are going to talk about you like you're fucking Kendrick Lamar? Like, it's not going to happen.
Oh, God. I always love, like, just putting on your songs, like, in the car when I'm driving around with people. I remember whenever you released Pictures of Your Feet, I was like, oh, okay, it's a new Teddy Gray song, I have to listen to this. And I was driving around with my brother, and I think I played it, like, 10 times, and he was like, why does it just keep saying Pictures of Your Feet? And I'm like, that's just the name of the song.
Man. Yeah. It's difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell. Hey, this is my new song. It's called Pictures of Your Feet. And they just, like, immediately think I'm some fucking pervert. And when I'm like, no, it makes sense in context.
No, obviously, it's a very prestigious song. People just don't get it.
Commentary on all. I mean, there is some social commentary in Pictures of Your Feet. It's probably more prescient now, considering that I'm about to move to the city and probably have to resort to Craigslist. But that's a chat for another time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about everything I wanted to talk about. This was.
Cool.
Wait, what?
That's really cool.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on the show. This is gonna be, like, the first real episode. Like I told you, like, whenever we were texting, I had, like, a joke episode I did with my brother, but this is a genuine episode, so I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. I know I wasted, like, an hour of your life that you'll never get back, but it was worth it.
Not a waste, dude. We're doing the press docket for Rock and Roll McDonald's now, trying to get it reviewed and trying to, go on podcasts, talk about it. So this is a worthwhile part of the process. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Is there anything you want to plug, like your Instagram or TikTok, whatever you use?
Yes, sure. At Teddy Gray III on Instagram, and that's because I'm the third. So the little I thought looked like the third symbol, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should change it at some point. Teddy Gray on Spotify, Apple Music, all that, blah blah blah. Same with TikTok. Yeah, watch my shit on YouTube if you haven't already. Listen to my music; it's really awesome. So that's it.
All right, well, thank you, Teddy. Like, once again, thank you for everyone who's listening. I'm sure it's only going to be like 5 or 10 people because this is nothing that, like, nobody asked me to do this, but
what do you do? All for the love of it. Rock and Roll McDonald's.
Yes, Rock and Roll McDonald's forever. So thanks again, Teddy, and take it easy, man.
Alright, dude, have a good one.
You too. Bye.